Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss, and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spotted. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I am like super behind, but the camera wasn't working this morning. I think that I bumped the... Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have bumped the cam link behind the computer or something like that. I'm going to try and fix it. I'm going off of the USB instead of the stream link, but I don't think I missed too much, although we are moving, right? We had the import-export prices, and the export prices was significantly off export prices, negative spot 9 versus an expected negative spot 1. So treasuries are moving here a little bit. Let's come over to the chart. Yesterday, interesting day. I know, lots of different things to show you, but I think that the big one is that we dropped below 100 and, you know, just kept going. So here's the treasuries. You can see after our stream, it took off. So that was a little frustrating. Like, we did okay, but like, it was a monster move. We could have made so much more. This is crazy. But it's retraced a lot of that. They're kind of on the downside. It kind of suggesting that like maybe there's some resistance at 113 now. And I don't think that the options have kind of like reestablished themselves. I think there's still a lot of options all the way down at like 112, which could be really interesting going into next week. But and also remember that this weekend we get into Federal Reserve blackout periods, so still much to come this month. Here's the S&P 500 continuing to push up, oil continuing to push up, gold and silver okay, sideways. That's okay though. Great move from the few days previous. Silver's looking really good actually. Kappa faltering a little bit this morning, but recovering it. And then there's Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin. So, there was yesterday a little bit of a jump. I don't know why. I don't think there was any news or anything like that. But there was a bit of a jump yesterday. I have to say, though, considering how much gold and silver has gone, Bitcoin doesn't seem to be doing very much. And I just come back to that whole period earlier where we jumped up here. Appears to be primarily driven by MicroStrategy buying more Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin market still appears to me to be like a dead market. There's just not the interest in it that there was, even though like institutions are coming in and want to make ETFs and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that the general investing public is so interested in playing that game anymore. Could be wrong. And that could change very quickly. But for now, the interest doesn't appear to be there. And yeah, I guess I already showed the dollar, but okay, so that puts us at 3.78 today. All right, shall I go and try and sort out what the heck is going on with my camera here? So let's see if I deactivate and activate the cam link. Now, maybe if I unplug it. Aha! That's better. That's not quite right though, because now my image is not what it's supposed to be. I guess I can just change the filter here. I want you to be able to see the dollar here. I think I should do like 120 and 120 here. Oh, a little bit more. 30. That looks good. It's kind of funny, like one of the big selling points of this camera is the ability to just plug it in with the USB 3. But I don't like to do it. You get a better picture with the cam link, and you can plug in the power and you get better power. Also turn the fan up here. All right, what are you going on about, Captain Price here? Well, okay. Market Watch now has a rocket as a front page. Okay, so Zero Hedge was kind of starting to point this out in their daily stock market synopsis, and I definitely see it as well. That as soon as it appears like the Federal Reserve is done, that inflation is coming back and everything else like that, the market starts rocketing and is just crazy. How quickly this market seems to be able to go into mania mode, right? That sounds to me like something that's just going to turn right back into inflation. Right? It's like people didn't lose enough money over the past year. You know? So I have a theory about this, actually. Here's my theory. The more income inequality there is between, let's say, the upper middle class and the average person, the more likely you are to see mania and inflationary behavior in markets. Because what happens is you get this small group of people, well, not small, but relatively small compared to the rest of the population, group of people that are doing all of the buying. And meanwhile, you got this other group of people that aren't making hardly anything, right? Like they can't own a house, for instance, right? And so when you kind of deal with, when you raise interest rates and things like that, there's a group of people that can spend aren't necessarily impacted as much because they've already been in houses for many years. They already have really low interest rates on their house. They have jobs that are like in demand, so they don't lose their jobs, and so they're able to keep spending. And they may, because of sentiment, kind of scale back a little bit. But then as soon as the economy seems to be good, the floodgates open up again. just a theory. It would be hard to quantify the impact of that effect, but it seems to be maybe one thing going on right now in the market, because I have a hard time seeing how the Federal Reserve's job can be done and the stock market start to act the way that it has this week, you know? Threads daily users down 20% from Saturday and user time spent down 50%, says CNBC. You know, when everybody was talking about Threads, here's the thing. I don't think most people have been through this before. I always get really weird about these sorts of things because you have to say something egotistical where it's like, I know about this thing and the average person doesn't. It's kind of like it's hubris, you know. It's like, no, that can't be. You can't be that smart. But I really think it is the case in this particular instance. I have been on, like, chronically online since 1999, basically. So I've been here through all of this social media, and I've been, not only that, but I've just been really interested in online communities, you know. I loved the forum days. I miss the forum days, but you know, that's probably because that's what it was like when I was a kid. But I remember when MySpace became a big thing. I remember when Facebook became a big thing. I remember Twitter, the rise of all of these sorts of things, right? And here's something that I've noticed about social networks, okay? Something that I've seen happen over and over and over and over again. I've never seen a situation where a corporation comes out and says, hey, we have this new social media service, and they make this big social media push to get everybody to get on that platform, and then it actually works out. It never happens. Like, that's what Google tried to do with, what was their network called? Google. See, we can't even remember what it's called. I don't think I would, even if I sat there for 5 minutes and tried to remember what it was, I don't think I'd be able to remember what it was. Google Plus, that's right. Yes, Google Plus. It failed with Google Plus. And the thing is that when that happens, you know, the corporation generates a lot of media attention. So all of the news sites and everybody's talking about, oh, they've started Google Plus. Is this going to harm Facebook? Is this going to harm Twitter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And then what happens? A week later, all the hype's gone. You just have the diehards that really got into the service, and they get bored of it because the network doesn't really give anything to them, right? Like, the real question you got to ask when you get a new social media platform is, what does this platform give me that I can't get on the other platforms, right? What is Threads' case? That there aren't as many right-wing provocateurs on Threads? I really don't think that that's enough of a draw for enough people for the service to sustain itself on just that, right? Really, all they had was that because it integrates with Instagram and everybody had Instagram, you get a lot of people that are willing to try it. But like the things that we use Twitter for, because real talk, what makes Twitter special? Well, because I can get breaking and current news on Twitter in a way that I can't get anywhere else. That's what it really comes down to, right? If you're a trader, you want that tweet deck open. I think that at the end of the month, I'm going to have to add a Twitter subscription, right? Because they're going to put TweetDeck behind the paywall. That is just the best place to go to find out like what's happening right now. That's current, right? Over on Threads, there's no view that allows you to view things by new. There's no, you don't get like a TweetDeck like interface or anything like that. It is unsuitable for trading. Good morning, Adam. let's see here. So a couple of things here. Meta is so transparently bad, though. All of their platforms are the exact same thing with the same functionality. There's nothing unique about them. Yeah. HOA fees keep rising every year, and home taxes, even if you own a house, so the wages have to rise too accordingly. Yeah, I think that you're going to. So here's something that's coming, right? That we don't talk about very much, but really need to keep in mind, man, is that there is the aging out of the trades is like a real thing. Like there are some cities in the United States, is my understanding, where like you literally just cannot get a plumber. Like not enough people moved into the business of being plumbers. And so the few plumbers that are there, they're completely booked, and you have a significant problem. It is hard to find a plumber, even if you're willing to pay whatever is necessary. Like they're just booked. And that's going to be happening across trades and across a lot of like civil engineering type jobs too, right? And the United States has it better than most places. Like that's the other thing that's a little scary. Like in Russia, they're not going to have people that even know how to run their nuclear power plants anymore in 10, 20 years, right? They've got it really bad. But we even have it in the United States. That just kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen in the rest of the world and how that's all going to play out, right? At some point, they're going to have to make it easier for people to get into those trades when they realize that they need the jobs and pull those people in, right? Okay, can you please let me know what are all of the books that you use to learn everything to trade? Okay, so the first thing that I would say on that, just so you know, trading is not something that you can just come in and read a book and then you know everything that you need to know to trade. I know that there are some fields that can kind of be like that, but the problem with trading is that it's very much about like what's going on in the current market, and that's kind of always shifting. So learning to trade, a large portion of it is getting in the screen time. Okay. But there is a book or two that I find really gives you a leg up on everybody else that's out there trading. Okay. And the big one had stuff on top of it. The big one is Trades, Quotes, and Prices, Financial Markets Under the Microscope by Jean-Philippe Bouchot, Julius Bonnat, and Jonathan Donier. And Martin Gold. I don't know Martin Gold, but these other guys. Okay, so these are like the experts on market microstructure. Jean-Philippe Bouchot, in particular, is what co-founded the biggest, most successful player in our space, a capital fund management who runs a couple of CTA funds and things like that. And they do momentum strategies, okay? So this guy knows his stuff, right? And this book is very heavy research, okay? You're going to get big algebra in it. At the end of every chapter, there's dozens of references to academic studies, okay? This book is going to teach you the things that are proven about the market microstructure, essentially, okay? And I think one of the problems has been, because this information has kind of been around for 30 years, but retail traders didn't see how it applied. So I made a couple of videos sharing some of this information, so you can go and watch. If you haven't watched my order flow video series, for instance, I'd go and watch that order flow video series before you read this book, right? Because what I'm doing in there is I'm taking the most significant parts of this book and showing you how they're applicable to you in your trading. Okay. I'm looking for a macro book, man, because I feel like I have a pretty good handle on macroeconomics, but I don't really know how I did that. I think that I just picked it up from reading a lot of news over 12 years, right? Now, there's two other things that if you're a complete beginner that I would highly recommend trading, even though they're not directly related to what we're doing here with like scalping and stuff like that. Okay. One is, and I have it over on that bookshelf, so I won't go get it, but One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. Okay. And what you learn in this book is how to value companies, how mutual funds work, and just a lot of solid wisdom about the markets. So that one's kind of more applicable to like position trading stocks, but it's well worth it. I think that everybody should read that book. That's one that everybody should read, not just traders. Another one that I would recommend you look into is one of the series exams that are put on by FINRA. So I did Series 65, and Series 65 gives you a really solid overview of what's going on in the financial space, all of the different types of instruments, and how to, build a portfolio based on different people's needs and things like that. So I found that very valuable as well. But that's like $300 course, okay? But still, if you just ditch the books and see trading as gambling, it's easier to learn. Yeah, an investment advisor representative Series 65. Yep. Another one that might be useful if you're just getting started in futures trading is the Series 3. So I've been doing the Series 3, and you know what? I think that most of you regulars that are here on the channel probably already know everything that's in the Series 3 exam, and it's just a matter of like memorizing things and taking practice tests. And then you could be an investment advisor representative. Or sorry, then you could be a commodities trading advisor. And that would be an off-ramp into going professional, right? Do you think that intelligence and IQ play an important role in being a good trader? Okay, so that's kind of an interesting subject because I think yes and no. I think I've found very often that some of the best traders that I've met were not sophisticated people. I'm not going to say that they were low IQ or anything like that, but they were not sophisticated. You notice, like me, I'm kind of a sophisticated person. And I don't mean that as like it's really kind of an insult to me, right? Like I overcomplicate things. I want everything. I want to go into everything as like complicated and mathematical and scientific as I possibly can, right? The reality is that what I'm doing here on this channel is I'm just kind of proving using the data that trading is actually kind of like the simplest thing that you probably thought it was from the very beginning. Because when it comes in, you sit down and you say, okay, well, there's a market and there's stocks, and if I know something about the stock, then I can buy the stock and I can make money on it. But then you say, oh, but I don't know if I can do that. And then there's all this and you go into the technical analysis. But then when you come back, you realize that actually, like, the simple take was actually correct, right? Okay, and so I think the reason why many of the best traders tend to be simple and straightforward people is because they just understand what they know and what they don't know. And so when they have a piece of information that's going to predict the future orders and they know it and they trade it, and when they don't, they're humble enough to just not take any kind of a position. And that's why I think you get some of these guys that, you know, because it's always been like the guys that were the best traders, they speak slowly and intentionally. A lot of these guys are like farmers, things like that. They're not like college graduates, hyper sophisticated math stuff. The people at the hedge funds are, but some of the scalpers, and you go back in history and you look at when locals were big, like some of the locals, there were more like street smart people, right? And why was that? I think it's because the logic and all of that sort of stuff, it definitely helps in trading. But the key thing that's going to give you the edge is the information that you have, right? And anybody can have that. Even the simplest people can have the information and just trade on the information and make the money. So that's what I think. Now, I think that a high IQ person is much more likely to come into futures trading and kind of figure that out. But yeah, well, no. Yeah, trades, quotes, and prices, financial markets under the microscope. That's the one that you should go get. Just go and buy that book and read that. Those other ones were just kind of like if you're bored. But those, and then I have my strategy PDF. If you haven't read that, I would read that too. And then just come in every day and watch the markets with us and discuss with us what's going on. That's another thing, is the more that you're discussing the current macro environment with other traders, the faster you're going to learn, the faster you're going to figure it out. So that's why the stream and Discord and things like that can be very valuable, right? It's all part of the learning process. So that's the way that your brain learns. I've been picking up a new role at work, and it's a lot of information, and I can go and I can read things, right? I can have somebody else show me doing the thing, but I forget a lot of the details. You know, it's not the same thing as when you do it. Right? Sitting here and watching the market and trying to figure out what's driving these flows, what's going on. That's where you really learn, right? Because your brain is a neural network, and we're figuring out how do you train that neural network. I didn't turn the fan on last night to air the room out, so it's a little warm in here. Having skin in the game. Well, yeah. The more you can put, I think one of the things on this, we were talking about this the other day. So this was a point that I didn't make that I often do. And I kind of want to emphasize is your ego is a powerful thing, right? And, for me, the want to be a good trader and make good trades is in many ways a more powerful motivator than money is, right? And if you're going to be trading sim, you got to tell yourself, you got to keep in mind that, like, if I cheat on sim, ultimately I'm just cheating myself. I'm not helping myself in my trading, right? So I think if you're trading sim but you're taking it seriously, right? And your performance is, you have benchmarks that you're not going to trade live until you hit certain performance metrics that you want, right? Then you will take the live seriously, and you will have skin in the game. You don't have money in the game, but you will have things at stake that will cause you to do things properly. Oh yeah, it's speculatorseth.com/strategy.html. I did write it. Speculatorseth.com/strategy.html. Is Uzi always here? Yes, almost always. Uzi was really the first, guys. It was like first I was doing the I would just record the sessions and upload them later, and then Bitcoin futures went live, and so I did a live stream, and then there was kind of like a dead period where it was kind of like that before, and hardly anybody ever spoke in chat, and then Uzi came along and started talking, and that was kind of where things started in terms of like YouTube chat being a thing. Because before that, all of the chat happened in Discord, because the Discord predates the stream, right? And then Uzi came along, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, YouTube chat is even better. Sorry. Yeah, it's all your fault. It's all your fault, Uzi. Ruined my life. So it's only one strategy that you use. Well, so the point of the strategy.html document is not to give you a regimented strategy, but rather to teach you the information that you need in order to develop your own strategy. Because the thing is I'm giving you all of the kind of the key, do I want to say conclusions? What's the word that I'm looking for? Not innovations. I'm giving you kind of the key things that a lot of retail traders never figure out that kind of put you on the right track, right? And from there, then you have to look at what are the things that I know that other people don't? What are the things that I'm good at that other people don't? And, use that together with all of the information that I'm teaching you in order to find the situations where you're going to trade well, right? Like I trade the treasuries, but maybe you know stuff about the oil market, those sorts of things, right? So it's not like a setup guide or something like that. It's just the stuff that I've been talking about here in the videos and on the live stream, but like in a book form so I can get really detailed about it. I'd argue steering you to interact more on YouTube has made you better. Better at YouTube or better trading? I think better. I think both. I think the reality is that having the stream to distract me probably causes me to take less trades and in the end improves my performance, right? Because when all you're doing is watching, when you're laser focused on that order flow, man, you're just going to have a desire to take a position, right? Even when there's no real good reason to do it. I mean, I'm kind of feeling it right now. Like we're having a downtrend. I feel like I should be participating in this, but then I realize, well, I don't actually have any good reason to think that it's going to go lower or higher or anything. So, and we do have in an hour, we have some stuff. There's also Fed. When is the Fed speaker today? Goolsby. Goolsby speaks in 2 minutes. What about taking it long here in ZN? I don't know. So it looks like today has kind of been like a mean reversion sort of a thing at the end of the week so far. So I don't know how strong that particular flow could be. I would hope that the people that wanted to go long had already done it, but there's not a lot of speed or volume to this downtrend, though. I've been redirecting my futures trading activity towards only selling to offset my TLT positions, and I haven't had a reason to trade futures all week. Doing it as a hedge, that's smart. That's smart. And I love the show, Seth. Great conversations. I think you're extremely knowledgeable. Well, but I don't say anything about price action, though, do I? I don't. You use that you're trying to trigger me, aren't you? You're like, yep, I know that if you say something about price action, it's going to get him going. You know what's the thing that triggers me now? I saw somebody else discussing this. I think it was on Reddit, and I was like, yep, that's exactly what it is now. No, it was on Discord. Is fair value gap. Like if I'm on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and I see some guy that's trying to teach trading and they use the word fair value gap, I'm immediately like, oh, this guy's full of shit. Because really all they're doing is they're taking what ICT made and then trying to sell it themselves. I want to see that speed, volume hits, and heavy stacking on the way down to even consider participating now. Yeah, well, and could I say just like actual level 2 activity? Like the orders aren't really doing much, right? Like I can see the shuffling around from the robots, but it doesn't look to me like people are actively participating so much. Where is your next price action video? So I'm a little mad. Because I don't have the time during the day to like write scripts and stuff like that. Like my job right now, I've had times at work in the past where I could kind of rest, because what happened was I was so much faster than the rest of the organization, which isn't to say that like I'm super smart or something like that, but it's just when you have a big company and everybody else has things going on, you know, sometimes if you need a review on a pull request, or, you know, sometimes you just have to wait, right? And I was in a place where a large portion of what I was doing was, you know, more kind of organizational sort of stuff. Like the thing that I was doing before was F5. F5 is a load balancer. And we were moving off of the F5. So I was cataloging all of the stuff that we had on there and figuring out what wasn't actually being used anymore so we could delete it, and what needed to be converted off and all of that. So it's mostly like orchestrating things with other people, right? So that had a lot of downtime. Now I'm kind of doing more current issues stuff. I don't have that downtime. I'm just like engaged the whole time. And especially because I'm learning picking up a lot of new domain knowledge. But my wife is not working this weekend, so this would be a really good time for me to record another video, but I don't have anything ready. Maybe I could write something tonight, but yeah, the prices have been dropping, but the participation leaves me wanting. I mean, like you can see waves on it coming down, but you're not actually seeing the other telltale signs that there's like a large meta order going on. And, you know, we have pretty significant things coming. Goolsby is speaking here. University of Michigan in an hour. I think that there's was something else to do with treasury dealers, but I don't have that on my financial juice calendar. Yeah, I think that a lot of market participants are going to be waiting, right? They believe that candles are the holy grail and only candles make sense when they blow out. And, well, one of the things that I think is really interesting about technical analysis you know, because we always think about you can go long or short or not do anything, right? But really, when you think about trading, it actually kind of turns it more into a volatility context, right? It's either it's going to break out or it's going to mean revert. And the market will seem to go into these periods where it switches between them. So you can have a situation, or let's say a market where it is a bull market, it is moving up, but the tape has a tendency to mean revert, right? It's like it'll come back, and then later after everybody's given up, it will move up. That sort of a thing, right? And then there's the other side of it, which is like has a tendency to break out or reverse. Right. So like they'll sell it in the morning, like they'll sell it first thing, and then you buy the dip and you just hold it long and you make money. Right. And almost every technical analysis strategy ends up, you know, doing better or worse depending on which market it is. So like the volume profile one, the one that we were able to make profitable. Well, I think the main reason why that one is looking good is because you've had this market where like they'll go down and then buy the rest of the day. Right. And so since it's been doing that since 2023, that strategy seems to have been doing really well. Right. And it's the same sort of a thing with the price action thing. So the what they call the silver bullet that ICT talks about is kind of a mean reversion strategy, right? So you're waiting for a pretty solid amount of confirmation that we've already made a high and we're going to be turning back down, and then trading it on the mean reversion, right? And for a while, it worked really well. And then like the past year or so, it's done terrible. If you think that is slow, try implementing process change in a bigger company. Takes months. Yeah. You know what? I've worked on projects where a one-line change can take a month to get pushed out, because you'll end up with this monolithic. If you get a monolithic application that lots of people are committing to, it becomes very, very difficult to do anything, because what'll happen is you'll make your one-line change and then everything goes okay, right? But then you have to wait for it to run all of these regression tests, and that takes time and people to review it and everything. And then by the time that's done and it's time for you to merge it, the base is already changed. So now you have to merge in those new base changes, and then all of a sudden it breaks everything. It's like the whole thing moves underneath of you, so then you have to start all over again. Oh, man. Yeah. So, I've kind of been going along with the flow, but we were talking about some other things and we kind of had left them. They're going to price the middle class out of home ownership using insurance. Well, yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. We have to build lots more houses in order for the middle class to be able to afford homes. Really, frankly, in order for the middle class to even afford rent in some places of the country. Like in California, it's just a complete disaster, right? And the higher interest rates do not help that. Higher interest rates do not help home building. There's got to be something else going on that I don't understand, because I don't understand why, why home building has been so low since 2008. Why did they stop building homes? I don't understand that. Is it just red tape? Is it materials? I don't know. But yeah, there's some crazy things going on with insurance too. And they were saying particularly like in car insurance companies are having a really, really hard time, because like when you bust a car, it's like, and you owe like, $20,000 on that car or something like that. But the prices of everything has come down. And I forget the exact details, but like apparently that really hurts car insurance companies. And it's kind of the same thing is happening with housing. And so they're talking about like the insurance on houses is going to have to go a lot higher. Like to the point that the homeowners insurance is like a huge portion of the payment. Twitter culture and user base make it unique. I don't know. I don't feel like that Twitter necessarily has a quote unquote culture. I think that it did, but I feel that it's become so big that it's kind of beyond that, Yeah. I was interesting on the threads thing though, because yesterday I saw a video where this guy was saying, oh, well, Google Trends shows that like all of the interest in threads has died. And everybody's like, well, people searching for it doesn't matter because you just download the app and then you don't need it anymore, right? Well, there's the counter to that is like just the usage has gone down. Yep, as we should expect. As we should expect. My homeowner's insurance just bailed on Florida entirely, 50% rate. Wow. Well, I'm sure am glad that I don't have to pay insurance. Man, I mean, when I think about trading and all this market stuff, because look, I'm still trading micro contracts. I could size up. I really could. But I don't feel like I've earned it quite yet. And I don't really want to take like excessive risks. There's all like other things that I want to save up and kind of get those things shored up instead. Like I want some real estate, for instance. I want a real estate property so that, you know, I can deduct things on my taxes. Okay, so like am I making a ton from the trading? No. But when I look at my life overall, I am hundreds of thousands of dollars richer because of the knowledge that I gained from trading, right? Like I would not be in this house if it was not for the things that I knew about trading, because I knew right away. So the thing is back in when was it? 2013, maybe 2012, something like that. I knew that I needed to get into a house, like a townhome. That's when I bought my first one, was the townhome. And I did everything that I could, you know, like we were very frugal. We saved the money for 2 years to put the down payment on, get in that house, because I knew the way that the market was going, and I knew that the interest rates weren't going to be low forever, right? And then when I was able to switch, I was able to time things so that we got really good. I made really good money off of when I sold that house and off of my wife's house and everything else like that, you know, to be able to put enough money down to buy this house without having to pay insurance, right? To have 20% down on this house. I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. And that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, we've made probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, you're not deserving is just a self-set limitation. Yeah, well, so yes and no. I don't want to take more risk than I believe the strategy and the performance justifies. And what I'm finding is that I'm doing pretty okay, but that the market is kind of been very volatile lately, and so that's kind of been helping me out, right? And what I don't want to do is like, okay, I've been treading water here. I've made, you know, $100 or whatever. It's more than that, but I've made a few $100s trading micro contracts. Okay, so now let's double up, and then you double up, or you start trading 3 or 4 contracts. And you can very easily wash out what you did, right? And then on top of that, it's the summer. I'm going through a whole lot. I just don't think, even though I have the means and so forth to do so, I think earlier I was a little bit reluctant to size up as well, because I felt like if I blew the account, because I've done that on this, I've done that before, right? I felt like if I blew the account that I wouldn't, have, I wouldn't have the backup would be gone, right? I'd go to plan B, refund the account with the money I have saved up, and then I wouldn't have any left, right? So but now I'm to the point where it's a trivial thing. So that's not a problem. So I should be sizing up, but probably not until the end of the summer, and maybe not even until 2024, because it's the beginning of the year that we do the best, right? What market test strategies do you think? Well, the thing about that, Salim, was that I wouldn't even necessarily say that the strategy was failing. It's just that when it was trading it live, the performance didn't match my back tests, and the performance seemed kind of a little bit random. If I had remembered to turn it on every day and all of that, for all I know, it might be doing really well. But I had just gone enough to see that like there's another level to this that I need to put in, and it requires some infrastructure. So another thing that's been going on though is that I have spent almost my whole trading career trading a single contract, it all in, all out, right? And so part of the reason why I will take these sim trades in ZN and so forth is to practice managing multiple contracts. Now, I think that when I do that, I do some things that I probably wouldn't do over here in the micro 10-year. I don't think that in the 10-year it would work as well to try and scalp the range per se. But yeah. So I think I've been practicing that enough that when we need to do 2 contracts over here, we can, like yesterday I did do two contracts and it worked well. So wow, last year nearly every house in my neighborhood got a new roof put on, and there's 199 units. Wow. They were real simmer taking free comma. Well, once I've gotten my infrastructure down and I have a back test that I feel more confident in that includes some machine learning stuff, we absolutely should try trading it on a combine, So it's kind of funny. I wish I could show you. I would have to take the camera off of its stand, and I just don't want to do that right now. But my case came yesterday. Oh my gosh. It's been like, I got it mid-May, so it's been 2 months. But my Sliger rack mount case came finally. And then today, because my fan is too big, so today I get a new fan. So I think today I should be able to move my desktop into that case. And then we can think about making the new machine. I think I want to get the battery back up too, but I think I'll do the new machine first. Because the battery backup is just down there at the bottom. It's kind of out of the way. It's fine. So then we have the second computer, and then we can kind of start to do that sort of stuff. And then we already kind of got the first steps of the processing. So, but having that second machine is important, because then that's where I want to run like a Kubernetes cluster and put it all on that and stuff. So that's kind of why I'm waiting on those things. I do have a tendency to wait too long to do stuff, but one part of it is just you only have so much energy, I remember there was this time where it was like I was trying to get really heavy into Apex Legends because I was having some success in it. I was like, well, if I can find a group of people to play with, then we could probably do really well at this game, right? But what I found was like it was too stressful. Like you only have a certain amount of like chemicals. Like they've done these studies where like you only have so much willpower, and if you wear people down by forcing them to make lots of different decisions during the day and so forth, it's like whatever the chemicals are in your brain that you're dependent on in order to do decision making, you run out of it, right? And so when you have hobbies in trading, you kind of have to do this fine line of being able of doing something that is engaging enough to give you something outside of trading. That's really important. And also, you know, like, I think that you should do something where you're getting to max heart rate and stuff to be able to help you to deal with the stress, but also something that's not so stressful that it adds on to the stress of trading. You know what I mean? So I've had to shift the hobbies around because of that. Yeah, well, I want to do a combine for the robot. That's another thing that I keep saying that I'm gonna do, but like I never do anything about it, and I guess it doesn't really actually interest me, is to make a automated strategy that's really risky, right? Something that's likely to pass a combine, but is really taking on risk to do it, right? I think it would be so fun to make a strategy like that and then put it out and let people trade it. You know? Because then people would know. I feel like if I had that it would kind of change some of the culture and like the beginning knowledge in the trading community around risk taking. Because there are a lot of people out there that are having success, and it's only because of the risk taking, and they don't realize it, right? You just purchased a 10 gig Ethernet switch. No, so I don't really have a home server. So that's the next stage, I guess, is I'm going to buy a second case. I wonder if I should pick a different color. They have colors now, and this one is just black. I'll get a second case, and then when that second case gets here, then I'll start buying components for the new machine, and I'll switch all of my stuff over to the new machine, and this current machine will then become the home server, and that will be running a Kubernetes cluster and some real-time graphics processing. So I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do this. I think that I'm going to have to do it like I have a web page that is recording my voice, and then that gets sent to the other machine or something like that. But I want this machine to, stage one would be the second machine transcribes everything that I say live. The second machine transcribes everything that I say live. And then stage two would be all of that is input into a large language model, right? So that's what I want to do with it. This is kind of starting my home lab. It's the beginnings of my home lab. You know, you guys want to see it? I can take the camera off and I can show you what I've got so far. The case is really sweet. The case is really sweet. At least, you know, it's nothing special inside, but the outside of it, I think is really cool. It's Brad saying you purchased a Switch. So that's the other thing is I've been having some weird problems with my internet. I've been having some weird problems with my internet where like I have to restart the router, and it's a nice router, right? Maybe it's just old. I don't know. But so I'm like, okay, I guess I need to get a new router. But I've been looking at getting a more high-end, you know, going more professional. So the first I think it was somebody on the stream that keyed me onto this, was like the Ubiquity routers from what are they called? Oh yeah, no, it is Ubiquity. There, I'll show you here on the website. So they got like these consoles. So they've got this Dream Machine Special Edition, $500. So it's this really advanced router, and it has power over Ethernet. So all you got to do is plug in all of your Ethernet powered cameras, and then all of the cameras will go back to your switch and record the data on the switch. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But then when I started going into that and reading the stuff from Home Labs and stuff like that, a lot of people were saying that they were dissatisfied with these. So then there's it's called pfSense, I think, is like a router firewall sort of a thing, right? And you can just put this on any machine, right? But there are machines that are built specifically for it. But then people complain about pfSense. So now there's like a branch of it or something like that called OpenSense, OPNSense. Okay. And OpenSense has some hardware. OpenSense has some hardware. So there's the 2685 is the first one, and this is just kind of like their basic one. And it has 4 Ethernet ports on it. And then you move up to the 2750. The 2750 has these, what are they called? SPF ports. So it has 3 Ethernet ports. Has 3 Ethernet ports and 2 SPF ports. So then you can do 10G Ethernet through those SPF ports. Yeah. And then there's these other ones that are even more crazy, but I'm not quite sure what the point of these ones would be. Because this one already has in it, when you look at, okay, it's got 4 cores, max frequency 2.2 gigahertz, and 8 gigabytes of memory. So maybe moving up to 6 gigabytes of memory would be an improvement. But like for a small home network of like mine, I should be able to run even the most intense firewall applications that OpenSense offers on this. So, but I don't know if it's worth it or if it's overkill or what. So I've been thinking about that. That's what I've been leaning towards. Okay, so you went with the TP-Link ones, yeah. So I haven't looked at those in a while, but they have hardware too that's built for pfSense. Store. Oh, it looks like they've kind of improved things. They have Wi-Fi routers, huh? They don't have just routers or like network. How's the market treating you today? It's just kind of been a quiet market. We haven't touched it yet. We might after consumer sentiment. We'll see. What did you get from TP-Link? Did you get one of their Wi-Fi routers then? Wi-Fi 7. Wi-Fi 6E. Well, let's see. What's this 11,000 Pro? Well, I don't like the shape of it for starters. I want a rack mount one. So here's the funny thing is like, I want a rack mount one, but then like, I don't think I actually want it in my room. I don't think I want it on this rack. I was thinking about putting it on this rack, but then I was like, yeah, but anything that I would get that I'd put on the like that probably is going to have a loud fan. So I probably should just put it downstairs, right? So I don't know. I could totally get, frankly, I could even get, you know, there's nothing stopping me from getting this 3860, right? There's nothing stopping me from getting this 3860. It's just that I'm not sure there's any reason for me to get it. You know what I mean? because I've never used OpenSense before. I don't know which applications I would end up using. I don't know, you know, there's all that. I will probably have to get a, so one thing that I think would be nice about either of these 2750, let's just assume that I go with the 2750, is one 10G can be to the modem, and then the other one can come up to my room, and then I can get myself a little rack mount switch to connect together those machines. Because I'll have 2 or 3 machines in that rack. And I think so here. So I said I was going to show you. I'll show you now, right? So it's not, oh, okay, now it's looking okay. Okay, so I've got a shelf for my laptop here is the top part. And then that's the machine. And it's on a slide. Right, you can slide this out. I have the screws on the top undone, otherwise I'd open up the top and show you the top. But the front is really simple though. It's just nothing but mesh and a power button. And there's the old machine. There's the old machine down there. And there's a UPS next to it. So what we'll do when I get the heat sink is we'll move the guts from this thing into this thing. Right. And I don't know what I'm going to do with that case. So, yeah. We're looking forward to what the consumer sentiment. Yeah. Today was your best day of the month. 2 wins were cut in reverse. Huh. And did you make those trades in the treasury? Because it looks like he could have made money from the treasuries today, but it's tight. It's tight movement, right? You have a Juniper 210. Let me look that up. Juniper Networks. Oh, these do look like Enterprise at Home. SRX series firewalls. Oh, you can't just buy them from their website? Amazon. Wouldn't it be cheaper to do what you want in a public cloud? Not necessarily. So, I think that the thing is, some of this has to be done anyways, right? Like, we're getting time where we need to build a new machine. And if I have a second machine, my wife can use it. So that comes back to the conundrum of, do I move my rack over there? The videos won't have the beautiful plants in the background anymore. I don't think it would look as nice, but... they're a few years old. Do they sell them on? Yes, they do. Oh, that's what they were talking about. Juniper Networks SRX 300. And you said you had 210. But it's maybe not an SRX. Well, now I have to... well, I guess we can do it here. I was like, well, now I have to go and research that. Want to see if anybody's talking about those over here on the Home Lab subreddit. How does OpenSense compare to things like Juniper/Cisco? Hey, only 8 days ago, exactly the question that we need. Home labbing, it isn't going to make a world of difference. You're more paying a premium for the software than the hardware, as others have said. They are just computers at the end of the day. This also usually comes in some form of subscription as well to keep the definitions updated. While I run enterprise equipment at my work, I don't have a need to do anything beyond OpenSense at home, because I'm not doing anything beyond firewall rules, NAT, DHCP, DNS, etc. on a firewall, where on an enterprise scale, it ends up being more of IPS deep inspection, site-to-site VPNs, integration with endpoints to block infected endpoints, things I can't do at home. When you determine you need features. Like, I do want to do the deep packet inspection. You know, one of the things is that what I really want is I want like a proxy that allows me to see all of the browsing history and stuff. Like, just doing it through a DNS is not enough. I want to be able to do the packet inspection and stuff like that. Victron inverter? What's that? Yeah, it looks like some serious business. Nah, I was just gonna get an APC. Something like this. I keep looking at my local. So KSL is the major news network in Salt Lake, and everybody does the classifieds through that. Craigslist isn't as popular here. Every once in a while, I run into some. Well, there's a big one, but I don't want to spend $2,000 on one. Not too much new over here. Cyberpower sometimes has them. No. Oops. Turret light. There's one. 800? I prefer to get a deal, but that would probably work. It has sine wave. Oh, it's brand new, that's why. I have two of them junipers. I don't know if I would buy them today. Get the small one. Okay, so which juniper would you get? So that's one of the things is that I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so here's the juniper. It supposedly has a firewall and it has 5. Oh, that one is for the console. Which one is the link? Oh, it's console, or is it link? Is that one the link? Maybe that far left one is the link one. So that has the ports and stuff. But you have to pay a subscription for it. It will be much better than that and last a long time. Well, I have a pretty good UPS right now, and it fits in there, so I don't have to get that part immediately. But getting a more expensive UPS would be nice to be able to power 2 machines, right? But if I got a really monster UPS, that would fill out the rest of the rack, so I don't know, man. I'm still leaning towards this 2750. It's just I think it's overkill, right? Like, I thought that the Dream Machine was supposed to be overkill. And this is more expensive? So let's come back here to read the responses on this one. The real difference is what you want your firewall to do. If it's just a box to access the internet with no restrictions or filtering, then they all perform the same. It's when you want to start adding things like VPN sessions, content filtering, mail scanning, etc. to the roles that subscription services like Juniper, Cisco, Sophos, Fortify, etc. and expecting them to be up to date or even ahead of the most threats that they start to leave firewall software behind. I see. So even though this one is cheaper, customers also search Juniper Firewall. There's got to be more expensive ones, right? If I look to the equivalent. Oh, that's a big old switch. You know what's another thing that I've been thinking about lately for some reason is LAN parties. When I was a teenager, we used to do LAN parties all the time. But the LAN parties kind of died off after Steam took off because everything had to go through the internet. And I guess maybe there's not so much games that are really like LAN party friendly. But I'm wondering if the new Frost Giant game that's supposed to be a real-time strategy, like a Blizzard-style real-time strategy game, I think they intend to make it LAN friendly. Maybe that game would be a good LAN game, and we could do I could do a LAN party. And I have the space to, if I move things around and stuff, I could fit a good number of people, So I just need a good switch, right? Or maybe a couple of good switches. Oh, Brad, hold on a second. I don't see. How do I do this? You're so young that you don't even know what a LAN party is. A LAN party is where everybody brings their desktop computer over to somebody's house and they connect together on a big network and they play video games. Oh, can you try posting the link one more time before you go? Because we didn't see it. But now you have a blue name, so you should be able to post it. Yeah, it definitely gives me something to look at. See, so I wonder if I go DEC 2750 versus Juniper blah 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 blah, does it give me a recommendation? Well, here's one. Maybe he's not going to post the link to us. Oh, okay, so it's time for the news here, huh? They liquidity completely pulls. Okay, consumer sentiment higher than anticipated. But what about expectations? Slightly higher than expected. 5-year 3.1 versus 3. 1 year 3.4 versus 3.1. Okay, so the treasuries did sell. So now I'm sitting here thinking, okay, is it going to go more than that? Well, that sentiment being so high could do it. There's definitely a little bit of volume there that's kind of causing them to reverse a bit, so. Oh, there you go. Signature Solar, huh? Oh, you've got like a big old battery pack that connects to your solar, huh? My parents have something like that. I always get the solar company people knocking on my door trying to convince me to get solar, and I mean, my understanding is that I could probably get it for practically for free. Like, I would have to spend money now, but I would get it back in my taxes. But I just don't have enough contiguous roof space to really make it worth it. Okay, they look like they're deciding to go a little bit further. Yeah, well, I was thinking about in the micros 7, 9 to 8. I guess I should have done it. I'm kind of starting to think though it's Friday. Maybe I don't want to. This kind of puts us in a conundrum, right? Because what we're seeing is like, or here's what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that inflation has come back, and I'm going to bet you that the next 2 months that inflation numbers are probably going to look pretty good, right? But if we continue on the path that we're on, the inflation is going to come roaring in a second wave. Like, because that's a big jump in consumer sentiment, right? Well, I don't have to get a news. We'll see if it dies on me again today. I had to restart it yesterday. If I have to restart it again today, then I'm definitely going to be like, what the F? But maybe I don't need to. We'll see. But I guess I don't have to get it today. But that's the thing that I'm binge learning. Last week it was watches. This week it's high-end routers. Anyways, thanks for that. You should get going. So they pulled back a good amount and then just slammed right back to the lows very quickly. So the news squawk was just pointing out that the yield curve flattened further. Well, let's come over here to Zero Hedge and see if they got a story on it so far. Oh, look at that. Threads unravels. So-called Twitter killer app sees exodus of users and plunge in engagements. Of course, they're interested in that. I tell you what, the bias at Zero Hedge is so strong. It really is not. They are not unbiased at all. JP Morgan jumps after blowing away expectations and raises guidance thanks to First Republic. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, right? Oh, man. So my stock, Goldman, I don't know if they're going to do so well on their earnings. We'll see. Of the implied Fed. Well, so what you want to look for, Francesco, I think what you're looking for is the Fed dot plot. Let me show you. So if you just search for Fed dot plot, you'll probably get this. The summary of economic projections. And then somewhere in here you go. Here you get the actual Wells Fargo has taken some credit tightening actions, according to CEO. Okay, so this is basically they're saying at each rate hike, what do we think it's going to be, right? And each one of these dots is a different Federal Reserve member. Well, not a different Federal Reserve member, but like different projections. I think each one of these dots horizontally is a different Fed meeting because they're going all the way out to like the longer run, right? So they don't think that there are some that think that we're going to go above a 5.5, but most of them think that there's 2 more rate increases and that's it, right? And then next year they can bring them back down. So that's the projections. But that's the best source that you get for that, to know like, well, this is what the Federal Reserve is saying, right? I just needed to blow my nose real quick, so I went away. Clean my nose out. Well, I don't know how I feel about this pullback. It's kind of looking to me like they made the news move and they're just doing a base retrace. And because it's Friday, we've got to be careful about like, I don't know if this is like, is it going to be a trend day? Is that sort of a thing? They're going to go and make a new low? Because if not, the most likely scenario is they come back and they either find some balance somewhere in here or they come all the way back to 27, right? So I'm a little concerned about that because it's a Friday. Because the activity level is died back down pretty quickly, right? There was a brief opportunity, but not too much. Let's clear this above us. I am hearing quite a bit of activity on the news squawk this morning, but it's not anything too important to us. You know, like they're talking about the grain deal in Ukraine was the last one. I'm still waiting for a better rundown of it. Here we go. Okay. You tried Zenith? I have. So, Zenith could be really, really useful depending on what you do. So for, especially for stocks, I think it would be pretty valuable. But it didn't really give me the data that I wanted. It was really interesting, but I was not finding enough actionable information off of it for my trading to justify continuing to pay for it. So I did their discounted trial thing and then ended it after that, because it just didn't. Guys at Axia use it pretty extensively. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I just was like, I felt like that the data that I wanted, it didn't have. You know, same here. Yeah, what I need is a Bloomberg terminal, right? I bet you I'd probably make pretty extensive use of a Bloomberg terminal. Can I perform? So yeah, you can program just about anything that you want in NinjaTrader, especially if you plug things onto the back. Well, and especially if you're using NinjaTrader 8.1 and they have the newer C# libraries, and then you can really plug just about anything into it. Okay. The once must-watch inflation expectation signals from the University of Michigan Sentiment Survey unexpectedly rebounded higher in preliminary July data, with expectations for the next year up from 3.3% to 3.4%, notably above the expected drop to 3.1%. Expectations for longer-term inflation also on the rise. Headline confidence was expected to rise in the preliminary July data, and it did bigly. Sentiment rose to its highest since September of 2021 at 72.6, with both current and expectations indexes soaring. Buying conditions surged for durable goods and increased for houses. Confidence is likely correlated to the surge in stocks, but the rebound in inflation does not fit with the narrative given by CPI. Anyone experiencing data and I am not having any. The market had priced in a confluence of data points. The recent movement appears to be a minor recalibration. Quarter two earnings season officially started just before 7 a.m. Eastern Time when JP Morgan reported earnings, which, as expected, trounced expectations primarily on the back of generous contributions from the First Republic FDIC taxpayer bailout, which helped push the bank's net interest income that much closer to a mind-blowing $100 billion. Wow. JP Morgan reported a net income of $13.3 billion and a ROTCE of 23% after excluding a net after-tax gain of $1.8 billion relating to the First Republic transaction. That's right. If it hadn't been for First Republic to cover up its mess, JP Morgan would have had another mini London well fiasco on its hands. We are curious what the $900 million pre-tax loss in investment securities was the result of. Very curious. Oh, there's the AC. Oh, that's... Oil's falling here. Gold and silver falling here a little bit. The dollar has just kind of been all over the place since that news. It's actually pretty volatile relative to the treasuries, for instance, in the dollar. What the heck? 24 100 gigabyte ports for under $300? Yeah, that I'm gonna have to check that one out. Any of you guys gonna go and see the movie this weekend? Doesn't Barbie come out this weekend? Mission Impossible is out, right? Now playing Mission Impossible. Does it not come out until the 15th? Oh, I think Barbie is next week. Yeah, Barbie is next week. Barbie is the 21st. Oh, I want to see Oppenheimer. Oh, yeah. Like, I think bright and early Saturday morning. Yeah, Mission Impossible. And then all of the reviews, so let's check Rotten Tomatoes. They were reviewing very highly. I am kind of suspicious of Barbie. I think it's going to be like a 75-80% movie, and everybody's acting like this is the biggest movie ever. I think it's all just hype. I think it's all advertising. But Mission Impossible, 96% after how many reviews? No, don't do that. Don't want to see the trailer. After 297 reviews and 1,000 plus verified ratings, it sounds like Mission Impossible was good. I guess we'll see how much money it makes in its first week, because then we'll have like, okay, so everybody was saying that the reason these movies weren't doing very well was because they all sucked. But if this one is good and it still doesn't do very well, then Oppenheimer here comes out 1 month later. Oh, that sucks, dude. I gotta go. Okay, so let's see here. I'm gonna look now. Oh yeah, come on. Give me show me luxury tickets. Yeah. There's plenty. There's plenty. Let's just get luxury tickets for Saturday morning at 11. I guess you could do 2 o'clock too, but then you don't have any time to do anything. Mission Impossible was a good fun. Okay. I don't know. I'm pretty hyped for. I love stuff about nuclear power and nuclear weapons. I think it is just the most interesting thing. And both my father-in-law and brother-in-law are in the nuclear industry, so hearing them talk about it is so interesting to me. So I'm super. I wish we had done our family reunion a couple of weeks back. I wish we had done it during when that came out, so I could go watch that with them. Oh yes, I watched Chernobyl. That was so good. Chernobyl was one of the best pieces of media I've seen in the past 10 years. That was so good. You were considering nuclear engineering? Yeah, it was just so well done. You really could have totally screwed something like that up, right? Like, there's been a lot of documentaries about the disaster and how it happened and things that are all kind of like cheesy and dumb. They just did such a good job with it. Man, my nose itches really bad today for some reason. It's not like anything's blowing in. We're like in the heat of the summer now. I felt like the allergies should be dying down, but my nose is just like itchy. Well, it came back down there a little bit. I guess we maybe could have been made a basis point, right? Actually, it's fallen back there a little bit too easily, don't you think? Nuclear power is the thing in Ilya. Probably would have gone with nuclear engineering. It's crazy stuff. You know, what else is interesting about nuclear power is that there's so many different types of jobs that are needed to run a power plant. That interests me. I don't know, have we talked about this week? So like, I've kind of been getting into the old money aesthetic is what I would call it. So like, the reality is that there is no such thing as an old money aesthetic. People on TikTok, they talk about it, but the old money aesthetic is not like there's not some sort of overarching philosophy behind this aesthetic. What it really is, what makes something luxury, what makes it fine? Well, almost always it comes down to, it looks that way because that's how you get the best material and application of the particular thing that you're going to do. Okay. So like a great example would be like a Rolex watch. Let me pull up a picture of a Rolex watch to show you here. Rolex. If I search for Rolex images. Okay. So when you see a Rolex watch, like here's this one right here. Okay. Why does it look the way that it does? Well, the reason it has this big flat area right here, right? The reason it has that is because that's how they made them waterproof. So the big innovation that put Rolex on the map was their Oyster watch, which was like the first super waterproof watch. And they did all of these like publicity stunts and stuff where like this first woman to swim across the English Channel, she had a Rolex watch on, right? And the watch survived the swim, which at the time was unheard of. A waterproof watch was like, are you insane? Because they were very, very susceptible to dust and water and things like that, right? But part of the design was just to have this metal thing that you could screw on down really, really tight and to make it waterproof, right? So it starts with some sort of a benefit, in this case, it being waterproof, right? And then that utility turns back into the aesthetic, right? So that thing becomes associated with luxury. And so then all of these other watches are made to look like this watch, including like the metal bracelet and all of that sort of stuff, right? So there's a bunch of watches now that duplicate the look of this watch. But it wasn't about the look in that like people liked that they made it because it looked cool. They made it because there was a practical utilitarian use to it, right? There's a practical utilitarian use to it. And so the really what the old money aesthetic is if you're going to get something that is perfectly suited to the task that you're doing, right? So like if I'm going to go buy pants, well, there's a bunch of different things that I could be doing. So there's a bunch of different pants that I could get that would be better or worse suited to the task, right? Like if I'm gonna be going out and working, being on a job site, then I might want, I definitely would want something with like a gusseted crotch and the knees, articulation in the knees. Maybe I would want extra padding on the knees, right? Versus if I'm boating, I might want something that keeps my ankles clear and dries really quickly, right? You see, that's what the old money aesthetic is actually about, is whatever the activity that I'm doing, I'm going to have clothing and gear perfectly suited to that task, right? So it's cool to me to what I think is cool is to do things that are, it's not just about going and getting something that's expensive, because there's all sorts of junk that you could waste money on and doesn't really have any value to it, right? But I think that what makes it valuable to me is that it's perfectly suited to doing a specific task and makes that task better, more enjoyable for me. Or it's unique. Like you can build your own watches. You know that you can like find, like, especially for Seiko watches, you can go online and there are like these Chinese suppliers on AliExpress that are like selling the individual parts to the Seiko watches, and you can just buy them and build the watch yourself. That's cool. Like you built it yourself. You did something yourself. And so why did I get into that? Well, to me, part of that aesthetic is working man. So isn't that kind of funny how it kind of comes back into a circle? That it's like, I think that the more luxury it gets, that the more it should filter back into being a working man, but not being a working man to like survive off of your labor, but being a working man for the joy of building things and making things, and there being, the history and work in it. So like we're building a desk, and when I finish that desk, there is no way I'm ever going to give that up. Like maybe in the future I get an even better desk, but I'm not going to throw that one away. No way. Because finishing that took so much time with going in and filling every little crack and hole in it with epoxy. The finishing, the sanding, it's taken me months. It's worth more than it's worth more than its same value, right? Why? Because I made it, right? And if it's something that was handmade by somebody, that's the same thing. It's like, there's not anything else quite like that one, because somebody took the time to make it, and they made it to very specifically suit a certain purpose. Like my desk, there's not going to be any desk like this anywhere in the world, because my use case is I want an extremely sturdy desk that doesn't wobble at all and keeps all of the cables secure, so that kids can come and crawl under the table and I don't have to worry about them breaking anything, right? That's my use case. So it's perfectly built to that use case, right? So I forget completely. I think I got into that because we were talking about nuclear engineering, and I was saying, there's all these jobs that you can do in nuclear engineering that, that are actually kind of more working blue collar jobs, but they pay really well, because these things have to be done at a nuclear power plant, and not very many people can do them. I also think, have you ever heard this this advice that like you should have 3 hobbies? Like one should be a physical hobby, one should be an artistic hobby, and one should be a thinking hobby or something like that. It was like, so if you're gonna have 3 hobbies, they can be like running, painting, and chess or something like that, right? Well, I also think that you should have a hobby that is, let's say, antiquated. You should do something that was popular in the past, but not very many people do anymore because of modern conveniences. A craft that is not valued very much anymore. I think it's important for us to like continue to pass that knowledge on. Like ? Okay, so like, and this comes down to a lot of trade crafts like woodworking, stone cutting, watchmaking maybe could be one. Not as much like manually making of watches and cleaning them and stuff. I do tomato sauce once a year with my parents. There you go. Think of hobbies that like old people do and young people don't, and that might be practically dead in 30 years, right? Like woodworking is one of those. If you were to go to like a woodworking club in your local area, I bet you that almost all of the people that would come would be over 65, right? So not as many young people do that. Because it used to be, there was a time period when all the furniture was handmade, right? And was actually quite a luxury item to some extent, right? And now it's like furniture is mass produced, right? So there's not as many people like, handcrafting furniture anymore. Maybe his nuclear submarine training translates to working for the power grid. My brother's friend does that. Yeah, I think you should, and especially if it's something that's like your area has a history on. Like I think that something that has happened in the post-war era is that we have undervalued the benefit of tradition and generational knowledge and community knowledge and things like that. We think that if we go up to the global scale and we do what everybody is doing on the global scale, that will be like the best of everything. And what I'm starting to find is like, actually, no, that's not true. That there's lots of knowledge, like really, really deep, interesting things that because of the way that things have gone, have kind of been thrown to the wayside. And there's lots of knowledge about society, about how people interact and things like that, that is being like just discarded and lost. It's like, because we don't know why it was that way. Like one of the things that I see going on right now with the kids is that polyamory is becoming more popular among the kids. I'm telling you, man, there's some serious disadvantages to it. There's a reason that our ancestors don't do it. Stop doing it. They all think, see, what they've been taught from like these psychology theories and everything is that the society made these things taboo so that they could control you. No, that's not what happened. What happened was there was some guy, he did all of this stuff and it didn't work out for him very well. And so then he told all of his kids, probably you shouldn't do that. It's easier if you just focus on one person and build a family with one person. Traditions are still very eradicated. think that was a misspelling, especially in small communities, but I see things changing here. They did in the US a few decades as well. Yeah. I think that there should, so it's kind of like a move back towards older knowledge, doing things yourself, doing things by hand, and appreciating the meticulous work that it takes to do something well, right? Whether it's clothes or furniture or an item, and even with the networking, it's like, I'm going to build a home network here. I'm going to do it the most awesome way I can possibly find. I'm going to do it rack mount. It's rack mount case, not cheap. Rack mount case is not cheap. It's not really worth it. But it sure is cool to have it now. Right. I meant to say that they're still quite alive. Ah, yes. I give you another example. Have you ever seen these documentaries about how the Japanese make ink? So they collect soot. They burn these candles and collect soot. And then there's this filtering process and all of these crazy things that they do for it. And then once it's gone through that 5 or 6 step process, then it has to sit out and age for years. Crazy. And there's these families that have been making ink and selling ink for 1,000 years or something. Can I shortcut my programming learning C#, getting the library? What do you mean by getting the library? So there should be free resources online to learn C#. You shouldn't have to buy anything or go to the library. The only reason why I would pay for anything to learn programming is because you need the structure. You're finding that you're not doing it, that you're not really learning it, then it might be worth buying something. But the resources for you to learn it all yourself are totally out there. Especially for learning it to the level that is required to be able to program your own strategies in NinjaTrader, right? What I did at university is really for building infrastructure and things that nobody's done before, right? But if you just want to program trading strategies, simple trading strategies in NinjaTrader, you can learn that on the fly. Absolutely. I don't know. I should be a programming influencer, shouldn't I? I have probably even more knowledge to share in the area of computers and technology than I do. I used to think that was not the case. I thought that it was lots of people know this stuff. I'm nothing special. Well, of course, there are lots of people know this stuff that are in the industry and stuff, but apparently these kids don't know this stuff. And like I was saying, something that really bothers me is that I'm starting to see some internet culture get lost. That's with this threads thing, is that I don't think that all these kids realize that when a corporation puts out a social network, it almost never works, and everybody is always overhyped about it for the first week, not because they're actually excited, but because that company pays a lot of money for favorable media coverage, right? So it's everybody was talking about threads, and now nobody's talking about threads, right? Why is that? Well, because they were all paid to talk about it, and they fulfilled their obligation, and now they don't care. PC still on, feels good. What time is it? 8:41? Well, it bounced around quite a bit there, but it looks like they did retrace that move from the news. So I suppose that I could have traded that, but to me, it's kind of like a mean reversion on less volume. It's not really the kind of move that I'm interested in trading, because that's not like a strong meta order, but you know what I mean? I guess it was still based on our informational knowledge and so forth, but I'd say it would have been too speculative of a trade for me to have taken. My XRP and XLM doubled this. Really? Maybe. I don't know, man. It still comes back to this whole problem that like cryptocurrency isn't really actually effective at any of the things that it sets out to do. And I think that the public has become a lot more aware of that. Is there room for there to be another cycle here based on certain things like programmable blockchains? Maybe. I kind of feel like we already had a run like that, but I mean, the bigger issue on the cryptocurrency is that Bitcoin itself continues to have problems. I also, I would be a little bit cautious because surely some of that money that moved into Bitcoin last month essentially is going to be filtering down into the individual ones, right? So you might see some rises. You might see some dramatic rises in coins that aren't sustainable because it's really only driven by one buyer, right? Especially if it's like going into like XRP, for instance. Can Ninja handle millisecond high speed, low latency calculations, or does it just water? Well, I mean, I don't think that that's really a question that makes sense. So C# can absolutely do high performance applications. You might need to know what kind of data structures to use and everything to be able to deal with the garbage collection efficiently, but it can absolutely do things fast. It's just a question of whether your machine can handle it, right? The only cryptocurrency that sounds useful is Monero. It's actually impossible to decrypt transactions, and it's actually used as a currency. Yes. I don't recall what the issue was with that. There's a reason why the cryptocurrency community as a whole is not as into Monero. There's a downside to the way that they encrypt things that makes it difficult. I don't know. Like this is kind of the thing that I think is funny about that one, is that like the things that make a digital currency enticing from a society level, like what are the benefits that we as a society could get from using cryptocurrency? All stem from your ability to examine in detail everything that's happening in the economy. Because right now, there's all sorts of very separate data sources, and the quality of the data might not be very good. But if everything is done on a blockchain, then you get exactly what happened, clean data on every transaction in the economy. That would be very valuable in forwarding our understanding of economics, right? But in order to do that, you can't really have the privacy, right? You have to be able to see all of the transactions and be able to categorize the wallets to some extent to know which wallets are individual people and which wallets are businesses and stuff like that, right? In other words, they're not anonymous. They're not what is the word? You know, like with dollars, as long as you have a dollar, it's a dollar, and you know it's good. You can't be censored out of the network, things like that. You know, it's not like you couldn't potentially build a network like that. It's just like, it seems to me like there's like two competing sets of incentives. There's two competing set of incentives that will never be able to agree. And the two extremes of that are both kind of scary. Both the one where it's like a Wild West and there's no control over everything, and the world where, you know, like the Chinese cryptocurrency, right? Where the government just has complete control over it. So what says Greg IP? What did Paul Krugman say? A lot of people are saying that disinflation was caused by Fed rate hikes. And even though I supported those hikes, I don't think there was any alternative. I'm puzzled by these claims. How is this supposed to have worked? Okay, so you don't understand how higher rates reduce inflation? Higher rates, economic slack, disinflation. But where's the rise in economic slack? Not necessarily. So it has more to do with the access to credit, right? You don't have to have quote unquote economic slack to get the disinflation. Okay, so then let's see what this guy was saying in response to him. The answer to Paul Krugman's obvious. Slack is gap between demand and supply. Fading pandemic effects raised supply. Higher rates restrained demand. For instance, improved chip supply raised auto assemblies. Auto demand would have been higher absent rising auto loan rates. So a combination of restrained demand, improved supply, leads to higher auto inventories, increased incentives, and that, according to Goldman, is taking pressure off the used car market, lowering used car prices. Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly. Dude, you know what? Like, so Paul Krugman, he's like the most mainstream economist out there. He has a very poor grasp of macroeconomics, in my opinion. I saw this article. Oh, you guys should read this article. I posted it in Discord in the economy channel, but I will post the link here in YouTube. Basically, this guy, he looks over all of the different schools of thought, like modern monetary theory and all of these sorts of things, looking over how they dealt with the period of inflation following the coronavirus epidemic. And, you know, he just nails it on so many different things. You know, like that modern monetary theory has basically been like destroyed by this. And, you know, I thought it was such a good article. And when he gets back to the end of it, what he says is, well, mainstream macroeconomics ended up being exactly right. Like the thing that we had always been told, that you come in, you raise interest rates, and then that brings inflation back down, and yada. Like everything worked the way that it was supposed to work. At the close, sometimes there's this algo that puts limit orders on both sides and executes its own orders at market without moving price. Okay, so I don't think that's actually what's going on. So what you will typically see at close is all of the market makers with open positions will need to close their positions. So it's not one algorithm. It's actually probably two players, one that ended up being long on the day and one that ended up being short on the day. And they are negotiating about where the closing price is going to be so that they can hit into each other and close out all of their positions, close out all of their inventory. So that's what you're typically seeing at the close, especially in instruments like the treasuries, right? That's why you'll see tons of volume both buy and sell, because these market makers don't want to hold their positions past the close. How do they negotiate that? Well, yeah, so what they do is they say, I think that I should get 25. And then the other guy says, well, I want to sell it at 26. And then sometimes one side loses. Like the other trades and the market orders, they sell it down. And so then this guy on the offer has to go, okay, I guess I need to put my offer at 26, and he starts executing into the bids at 25, and the guy at 25 basically wins. It would be verbally, but you can kind of put your orders, like it's putting the order out there to say, okay, this is how much I have and what price I want it at. And then they kind of move their orders around until one side is kind of forced to give in. Entering DOM reading newly and excited. Very good. Well, make sure that you check out my order flow and DOM video series here on this channel. It's about a five videos long and gets into some pretty advanced knowledge. And I really think that if you watch that video series, you'd be a light years ahead of most retail traders in your understanding of these things. It's really starting to bother me how itchy my nose is today. I don't hear any kids this morning. I hope that the babies didn't sleep in, because we tried to get them to bed early last night. And I don't think it worked. Mohammed El Arian says soft landing narrative gains steam, don't fight it. Yeah, that is a good point. Even though we're seeing some stuff that kind of suggests that it's not so simple, now is probably not the time to try and fight those people taking that trade, right? Learning sources for DOM are very limited. Yeah, well, it's kind of more of an issue that it's kind of hard to figure out where the information is. It's not the sort of, so there are some things where there is a lot of advertising and money that can be done behind it. And so there's all of these people with this incentive to write content and make things about it. And so the search engines pick up on that very, very well. But when you're doing something that's so very, very niche and little known, yeah, there are authoritative data sources, like we were saying earlier, a lot of this information, the more technical information, came from this book, Trades, Quotes, and Prices, Financial Markets Under the Microscope. And this book has been compiled by, basically 30 years of academic study, right? So the reality is there's a lot of information out there about this stuff. It's all in academic studies, and for the regular person, it's kind of hard to find that stuff, right? Once you kind of find it and you know the things to search for, and you pull up archive.org, right? Then it's like just a never-ending hole of stuff to learn. So, and that's one of the things, is that when you watch my video series, that it will really key you into the things you want to look for, and where this kind of stuff comes from. Because it kind of gives you the words to search for and the language that they use and that sort of thing. Why isn't HSI, NFTY, and CAC40 not I don't know. I don't know if it would really make much sense for a US broker to make them really available, because there's probably only a handful of people that actually would want to do it. You know? It's kind of an interesting thing that, like, excuse me, for retail trading, there's kind of a strong incentive for all of the retail traders to kind of congregate all in one place. And so there are some of these other instruments and stuff that, you know, are specific to a specific country or something like that. Like, they need to be around, but the people that really use them are really more professionals, because the retail traders, they all just go to ES, right? That's just the way it is, I guess. Consumer sentiment hints at heating market as soft landing sentiment solidifies. That's what happened today, but that's too big of a... I'm just going to say consumer sentiment hints at heating market. Yep. Okay, guys. Well, I am going to get going. Good day, good week. I mean, in the end, it was a good week, right? It was a positive week for us. We made back what we had lost last Friday. So, and, no, I was trying to be a little bit more hands-off this week. I don't know if I was successful with that. I did have a bad day yesterday, but it worked out. And I think that we should consider this week a success. And we're starting to get into the real heat of the summer too, right? So, like, we're going to have this next Federal Reserve meeting, which is on the 26th, I believe. And then after that, you're into August. And August is when things get really quiet, especially, I think it's like the 14th is when a lot of people go on vacation, and there's all of these sorts of things, right? And then it's school, and then things change. But, you know, so we're getting there. We should try and make use of these next 2 weeks if we can. All right. Stay excellent, team.